At the end of Resident Evil 4 Remake, we see that Ada Wong has begun to gain some character development, as she has clearly been influenced by Leon as a character, and we see this when she questions Wesker and asks him about his plans, and then suddenly betrays him and takes off with the amber sample after learning that billions of lives will be lost should she give him this amber. And I would really love to see this character development of Ada be further explored, since we don't see Ada again canonically until the events of Resident Evil Damnation, the CG movie, which takes place in 2011, and for the games, it's Resident Evil 6, which takes place in 2012. So there's plenty of time to basically showcase Ada Wong's development between those events from 4 to Damnation and Resident Evil 6. There's plenty of time to kind of implement something between that and showcase her character development. And I think there are two ways that they could really do that. The first one would be to give Ada her own solo game. I think this would be a really cool thing to do. I think one way that they could actually do it would be to take the Assignment Ada title from the original Resident Evil 4 and implement that into becoming its own solo game. And they could basically make it function very similarly to the Revelation series, where those games take place between major events. This game could also do the same, where it takes place between the events of Resident Evil 4 and Resident Evil 5. Maybe it's the year 2006 or 2007, and it would showcase what Ada does after she betrays Wesker. Does she decide to go work for someone else? Does she decide she's just going to be a solo worker and take on people like Wesker and try and stop them? What does she do with the amber? Like, all of these sort of questions could be answered. And so I think something like this would be really cool to see. Not to mention, it would give Ada her own solo game. She wouldn't be behind the shadow of Leon's overarching main game anymore. She would actually have her own spotlight for once, because the closest we've ever gotten to that was Resident Evil 6. So it'd be really cool to see something like that for Ada. The other option, of course, if they wanted to give her a solo game, would be Revelations 3. My only thing with Revelations 3 is I feel like that game would take place further in the timeline between the events of Resident Evil 7 and 8, or 8 and 9, not between 4 and 5, because that's when Revelations 1 takes place. So to me, it would just make more sense to take the Assignment Ada title and sort of use that for its own solo game between 4 and 5, rather than have both Revelations 1 and 3 take place around the same time. But they could do that if they wanted to. But either way, I think it'd be cool to give Ada her own solo game and further explore her character development from that way. Another option, of course, would be to take Resident Evil 5 and implement her into that game. And if they were to do this, I think the best way would be to have her featured in a DLC of some sort, like a Separate Ways once again. And what they could do there is basically Ada, after hearing that Wesker plans to take out billions of lives, wants to spy on him and his organization and kind of figure out what he plans to do. And so maybe she gets the Resident Evil 8 concept art where she had the Plague Doctor outfit, and she puts that on to disguise herself as Jill Valentine, who is also wearing a Plague Doctor outfit during the events of Resident Evil 5. And so we could kind of have something like that where she's disguising herself behind the scenes and she's just sort of investigating. And I think that'd be a really cool thing as well, because like I said, it would be like another Separate Ways sort of deal, only this time she's working alone. She's not working for Wesker. She's instead spying on Wesker and his people. So I think something like that would also be really cool, as it could also further her character development, just on a bit of a smaller scale, since it would be a DLC rather than a full-length game. And something else that they could add to this sort of DLC would be to have Ada face off against Jill, both in their Plague Doctor outfits. And I think that'd be really cool to see, as it would be very similar to when Leon and Chris fought against each other in Resident Evil 6. Only this time, Jill is obviously under mind control. And I think it'd be a cool dynamic, because Jill would be enhanced from the P30 device on her chest, while Ada would have stuff like her grappling hook to sort of give her an advantage over Jill. So I think that'd be a really cool thing to see if they were to do something like that. But what is everyone else's thoughts here? What would you like to see? Would you like to see Ada get a solo game that would further explore her character development? Maybe, like I said, in a Assignment Ada type of deal or Revelations 3? Or would you like to see her show up in maybe a DLC of Resident Evil 5 where they bring in the RE8 concept art Plague Doctor outfit and she sort of plays off as Jill Valentine and they kind of go in that direction? Let me know your thoughts on this. I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this video here and I will see you all on the next one. See you then.